Hi everyone, it's Melissa from the Hug Strap. I'm here today to teach you about movable chords, also sometimes referred to as bar chords. The first thing I just want to go over real quick, just for anybody out there who's a little bit confused and doesn't know, this might seem like a dumb moment for most people, but sometimes people don't really even realize what a chord is. So let's just go over that part first. When you pluck, any of your individual strings, or you put one finger down and just pluck a string, that's a note. So obviously here, that's a C note. And what makes it, I think, confusing for ukulele players, especially who approach the ukulele and don't have any musical training otherwise, is that the very first chord they tend to learn is a C, which is both a note when you pluck it individually and a chord when you hit all of the strings. So a chord is a collection of notes. Now, I'm going to make a separate video of exactly how chords are made so you can kind of start to understand how to put them together. But just very briefly, what you should understand is that a chord is a collection of notes. When you pluck a string individually, that just makes one note, right? And if you were to think about how chords are made, it's just a collection of notes, right? So a C, for example, is the notes C, E, and G. So if you put your finger here, right, you've got a C note. Now, you know the notes of your strings as long as you've been tuning your ukulele, which hopefully you have, because it certainly sounds better that way. So if you pluck this open string, it's a G. Then you've got another C here, then an E, and then a C. So that makes it the C chord. Now, if you take those notes, it doesn't matter what order they are in, they are still a C chord, okay? So that's why you can play the C chord anywhere on your ukulele. That's why you'll see people playing up here and you're like, why are they doing that? How do they know how to do that? Is it magic? It's not magic. It's just a little bit of music theory. But because of how a lot of musical theory is taught, and it's not really like user-friendly to beginners, it's very intimidating, and it can sometimes take a long time to learn, especially if what your main goal is just to entertain yourself and maybe accompany yourself and play music. But in order to progress, you really got to learn a little bit of it. So I'm going to do a bunch of videos that kind of breaks everything down into little bite-sized pieces so you can understand a little bit more chord theory, a little bit more music theory, and hopefully it will help you progress on your journey as a player. So now that we know a chord is a collection of notes, that they can be played in any order and it's still that chord, and that it can be played anywhere on the ukulele because it doesn't matter what order we play those notes in, it's still that chord. I want to teach you some movable chords so that you understand, that if you know a shape, you can just use the chromatic scale and move it up the neck. So let's back up for a second. Let's talk about what the chromatic scale is, because that might be something you're going, I don't know, what the heck's that? Is that different from a C major scale? It is. A C major scale just hits all of the major notes without any of the sharps or the flats. So you have the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If you haven't learned that already, please go to my video where you can learn how to play the C major scale, because you definitely should start learning that. But a C chromatic scale plays every single note in the entire scale, so all 12 notes. And it's most easy to see on a piano because everything's, nicely lined up. But if you do it on your ukulele and you know your C major scale, all you have to do, and again, I do have a video for this too, so you'll want to check that. I'm going to put a link for that up in the corner as well as in the description box. You're going to hit all the notes. So it would be C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, and you keep going up the scale. Now, what people don't understand with movable chords is that all you have to do is move up your ukulele, and that's also considered chromatic because you're hitting every single note, including the sharps and the flats, as you go. So if you know one shape, all you have to do is take it up the neck, and then you know many chords. So for example, I'm going to start with an A shape, okay? So you're going to take, normally I play my A this way. I use my index finger, let me get up a little closer, index finger on my C string, first fret, and I put my middle finger on the G string, second fret. However, in order to make things a little bit easier, and you might change how you play your A chord from now on knowing this information, I'm going to use my middle finger instead for that C at the first fret, and then I'm going to put my ring finger at the G for the second fret. And the reason why is because it lets this finger be available to do what I'm going to do next. So you've got your A shape, right? All right, so that makes an A. Now, if I just move my fingers up just one more fret, okay, chromatically, I'm now going to put my index finger on my E, and A strings at the first fret. And that makes a B flat, which you again probably already know. But if you take this entire shape that you have here and just keep moving it up the neck, you get another chord. All right, so now we're at the B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and now we're back to A, okay? Or you could play it down here, which is a heck of a lot more comfortable. And if you had a soprano, obviously you wouldn't be able to go quite that far either. You'd have to come back down here to play your A. But that gives you all of the chords in just, you know, like just by going up the neck, just with that one shape. Now there's other shapes too, so let's learn those. You have a C shape, so if you made your C, right, this is your C chord, okay? That would be how you start. But if I take my pinky and I put it here on the 4th fret, and then I take my index finger and I bar all of the strings at the 1st fret, I get a C sharp. Then if I move it up, I get a D. D sharp, E. This one's really helpful to know because the regular open position E is very hard to play, so definitely keep this one in mind. Oops. F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then you're back to your C. Obviously that's very hard to play, so you probably don't want to play it there. Okay, so that's your C shape chords. Now, if you do an F shape, okay, which that's our F, right? So we have our index finger on the E string, 3rd fret, or 1st fret, I mean, middle string finger on the G string, 2nd fret, that's our F. But again, remember what I said about finger positioning. Sometimes it's better to do it this way. Okay, now I can take this up just 1 fret and bar it, and I get an F sharp. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, and I'm going to quit because this hurts my fingers now, and I've run out of space. Okay, so those are 3 major shapes that you already know if you've been playing ukulele for a little while that can kind of just make your playing a little bit more interesting. And one of the things I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video is the reason why you learn these things, not only so you look really cool and like you know what you're doing, is because there are times in songs where you want things to sound like they are moving up a scale, right? Like you'll probably hear in certain songs, like the one that always comes to mind for me is, I'm a big fan of The Who, and in Tommy, there's a song called I'm Free, where it goes bum, 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 bum. So like when you want it to go travel up those tones, to travel up the scale, it's really helpful to know those bar chords because it easily takes it up the scale. So that's one reason why you might want to do it. It's also nice to have what's called a different voicing. When we take those notes and they're not in the typical order, let's say, so like for a C chord, if you're playing it with C, E, and G, that would be considered like the typical order of making that chord. You do what's called a chord inversion, which means you still have all the same notes, but you have them in a different order. It makes it sound a little bit different. It's called a chord voicing. So it's helpful to know these things so that way you can just make your music sound a little bit different. You know, if you're playing with a friend of yours or something and you're playing the same song, but you want to make it sound a little bit different, you know, your friend could play all of the open position chords and you could start playing the bar chords and it's just going to sound a little richer, because you have those different voicings, because all those notes are being played at slightly different octaves. It'll just sound a little bit better. So you should try that out. The last 2 movable chords I'm going to show you today is a movable 7th shape chord and a movable minor. So that way you kind of have most of the things that you're going to need. Obviously, when you get into jazz stuff, you got like all the 6ths and the augments and all that stuff, and those are definitely exist, but I just want to stick to the basics for today. Okay, so for our movable 7th chord, I'm going to stand up again so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to bar this 1st fret with all your fingers, right? And then you're just going to place your ring finger or your pinky on the A string, 2nd fret, okay? That's a C sharp. This one you probably already know. This is a D7. Oh, I'm sorry, C sharp 7. I should have said that first. D7, D sharp 7, E7, F7, F sharp 7, G7, G sharp 7, A7, A sharp 7, B7. We're back to our C7. It's really hard to hear it there. Okay, and then the next one is a minor movable chord, okay? So this one you're gonna do, you can bar the whole thing. I find it a little bit hard. My fingers are not super long. So I do the C, E, and A strings with my index finger on the first fret, and then I take my ring finger and I place it on the G string, 3rd fret. Okay, that's a B flat minor. Sounds very sad. Then we're gonna move up to get our B minor, C minor, C sharp minor, D minor, D sharp minor, E minor, F minor, F sharp minor. Oh, I can barely play that. It's a G minor. You can keep moving if your fingers will allow you to. I'm really having a hard time, but yes, theoretically you can go up a little bit further. But that is the basic gist of any movable chord, and you will find that there are other shapes that you can also learn, but these are kind of like 5 basic ones that you should know in order to expand your playing. Okay, so please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I will be following this up with a few other videos. I want to go into how chords are made, like triads and stuff like that, which really kind of help expand your playing and understand, you know, how to improvise and solo and just make your playing a little bit richer. But anyway, please like the channel, please subscribe. All that stuff helps other people find these videos. And you know, I gotta do a plug for my thing. These are straps that I hand make myself. I invented the design and I sell them online, and that's my main source of income. So if you like these videos, if you want to support the channel, certainly if you can't afford it, don't worry about it. Hitting subscribe helps me too. But if you're looking for a new strap, I have these, and because it is Thanksgiving and we are approaching the holidays, we actually have a sale going on, so please be sure to check out our social media because they always have coupon codes. Yay. All right, thank you so much. Bye.